In December of 1945, in Upper Egypt, an Arab peasant was digging in the desert. He had made an astonishing discovery. His shovel struck a red earthenware jar. Excitedly, he brought up the jar. But afraid that there was an evil spirit inside, he decided not to break the jar. But after realizing, after a while, that gold might be inside, he smashed the earthen jar and found instead of gold something far more precious and valuable. 13 papyrus scrolls. These scrolls were the secret writings of Jesus the Christ, the secret gospel according to Thomas. These gospels can open up a whole new world of insight into not only the teachings of Jesus, but into the secret teachings of the way of the Christ in all of us. On this special series of Aspires, we're going to look at these Gnostic Gospels, for they are profound in all areas. They offer to us an insight and a clarity into the Christ consciousness that has never been known before.
Ever since the dawn of humankind, we've sought the origins of our life and its purpose. Some have chosen to look to science, religion, or philosophy for answers. Many have turned to the great masters such as Lao Tzu, the Buddha, and Jesus Christ for spiritual illumination. Still others have sought truth through their own direct experience. All of us are searching, knowingly or unknowingly, for enlightenment, truth, and harmony in our lives. This program, hosted by Dr. Gregory Penn, will help you aspire to a more fulfilling and rewarding life.
These are the secret words, we are told in the book of Thomas, spoken by the living Jesus. Jesus was a living master. He was not a stagnant individual. He was not a religious individual. And he was seeking to teach us the way of our heart. We are in search of that heart, always in search. No matter what it is that you think you are looking for in your life, it is not the extremities of life in the form of power or money or security that you and I are looking for. It isn't really a philosophy or a religion or politics. We are seeking to find ourselves. And sometimes we get lost in the arid desert of our beliefs, of our mind, with all of its dead ends and its seeming limits. We find out within ourselves that in the truest sense of life, we are alone, and yet we are not alone. The Master said in the book of Thomas, "Let him who seeks not cease seeking his search until he finds."
When Jesus talked to us about the idea that we would be bewildered when we found the way within ourselves or the truth, that bewilderment really is quite important. Most people at that point turn back. We have to begin to understand something here. When we are bewildered, it's because we finally found the truth. And the truth of life, the truth of God, the truth of all of it is that none of it is like we thought it would be. I found this out in my own life. Nothing is as it seems. Life is not happening the way I think it's happening. Life is happening in its own order, in its own harmony, and in its own way. And I have found out if I just allow myself to watch it, to not judge it, to not try to analyze it, even though it's not working out the way I thought it should or I wanted it to, there's a harmony to it and a blessing to it that is very different. And if I just keep with it and I allow it, it's going to do some wonderful things in my life. The most exciting thing in life is to allow life to be just exactly what it is without us interfering and trying to make it what we think it should be. That takes great courage, great love, the deepest spiritual effort. If you're bewildered after your meditation, if you begin to see things in a different light other than the one you thought it should be, don't make a judgment on it. Believe me, the disciples didn't think that Jesus was their Messiah. They weren't really quite sure because he wasn't what they expected. And sometimes life isn't what we expect. That doesn't mean it's not happening the way it should, and that doesn't mean it's not happening the way life is happening. We have to learn to let go and allow life to happen through us without any judgments, without any preconceived notions, just allowing life to be what it is. When we do find the way of life, we may be bewildered, but we will find the truth in it as well. The interesting thing about all of it is that the more time we spend in meditation, the more time we find out that life is not what we thought. It simply is. And it takes a different kind of person in us to accept the isness of life and not what we thought it to be. When we are manipulating life through our thoughts and saying that people should act a certain way or be a certain thing or life should be a certain thing at a certain age or whatever, we're creating that out of our mind, a logic, a security trap. But when we're working with isness, we are working with the infinite. We're working with the total perfection of life, and life simply is, just as it is. To be able to accept that and to understand that, one has to work from the heart. One cannot work from the mind, because the mind will find itself bewildered, it will find itself confused and frustrated. To accept the isness of life means that we simply accept our meditation and we don't try to change life. The interesting thing about all of this is that Jesus said that only when we are bewildered will we reign over the all. How interesting that is. The bewilderment doesn't mean that we are deeply confused or neurotic. The bewilderment means that when the desires have dropped and the anticipation has dropped, the ego has dropped, the goals have dropped, what you think is right and wrong have finally dropped, then, in that kind of bewilderment, then we reign over the all. Why? Because in that kind of emptiness, and that kind of consciousness where we have dropped what we think is right and wrong, good and bad, up and down, where we are no longer living in goals and desires, that kind of mind is susceptible and open to God. And we finally allow God. We allow God into our life, into our being, into everything that we are. Interesting thing about that point of view, when that moment occurs and it happens in our life, we begin to find within ourselves that a whole shift of life occurs. We don't look at people like we used to. We don't look at people and segment them in little categories of individuals, but rather we begin to find that life has a meaning and a purpose, and people have their meaning and their purpose in life. That everybody on this planet has a reason for being here. We begin to honor and respect each other like we have never known before. We allow God, and we allow for God. The way we are now with our religious concepts and convictions and idealisms. We've created a God. We will only allow God when we have been able to drop all of those religious, outmoded idealisms, those materialistic insecurities of ours. Then, when we are empty, then life can rush in and fill us. Life will fill the void. The universe will fill the void. The universe will offer to us the insight. It is the pauses in life that are so important. The gaps between our words, the gaps between our thoughts. It is our meditative moments that create the opportunity for the all to come into us. Practice a little bit this week with this idea. Instead of trying to fill your life, try to empty it a little bit and see if you don't find some confusion, or shall we say, as Jesus was talking to us about, some bewilderment. When we do, we have the opportunity at that moment to lay down everything that we thought we should have and want to have, and we allow for God. And the interesting thing in that allowing is that we begin to reign over the all in us and the all in this world. I want to give you some how-tos in this particular portion of Aspire. How to seek, how to be bewildered, how to reign over the all. First of all, in your seeking, this is going to be a difficult one, so please bear with me just for a moment. You must come to some point within yourself, if you want to know the all, where you can admit to yourself that you do not know everything about life. Now, I mean everything. Most people think they know everything about life. Everything. They know what's right, they know what's wrong, they know what's good, they know what's bad. They even think they know themselves. I have found this in my own life, and I can share this with you and be very vulnerable. I don't know enough about life to be making comments like, life is only this and life is only that. This is what Jesus meant in the book of Thomas when he said, and they will be bewildered when they find. You have to be willing to be so vulnerable inside that you take the Zen statement, only don't know. In other words, only don't know how things are going to be. Only don't preconceive ideas of what things are right and wrong, good and bad. Now, this leaves us bewildered for a moment and for a little while in our life. Maybe a little uncomfortable, and you got to ride that out, and I'll tell you why. If you ride it out, you'll begin to see within yourself that with the I only don't know mode in you, everything that is true will come to you. One of the major blocks we have between the known and the unknown is something called knowledge. Knowledge is something that we are conditioned to believe that lives between the known and the unknown. Remove the block of knowledge, and the unknown becomes the known. It's really simple. I go into my day with this attitude. I don't know. I don't really know what's going to happen today. I allow myself to understand that if I go into the day with preconceived notions, ideals, that I'm going to miss the day. That doesn't mean we don't have things to accomplish. It just means they're going to be accomplished, but I don't always know how. With that kind of attitude, we leave ourselves open to what I call deep inspiration. Then God pours out through us those things that we need to know that will accomplish not only our tasks, not only goals, but allows us to enjoy life as a whole. So the first thing is to be comfortable with being bewildered for a while. Take the I don't know attitude. I don't know. Is it going to happen? I don't know. But allow yourself not to know. Allow yourself that kind of uncomfortable spot within you where you're not sure of anything except one thing, that you're going to allow whatever happens to come through you without any kind of resistance or anger or frustration. If you can do that, you'll begin to see that down here, that experience where we live from our, well, from survival mode begins to diminish, and we begin to evaporate up to our heart. And believe me, when we look at life from our heart, we more than know, we experience and we realize the truth. Let's look at the second step. It's not getting in the way of what we don't understand. That's a very important point. Don't get in the way of something you do not understand. There are a lot of things that you will understand about your heart, but you can get in the way of it if you start fighting it with your logic, your reasoning, and your ego. You'd be amazed what your heart will bring to you. Maybe somebody stepped on your toes or was unkind to you in some way or another in life. And maybe the first thing that crops up in your head is it's logical to be angry, to be hostile, or to try to get even with that person, to set them straight. Well, if we allow ourselves to get into that mode, we're going to be very unhappy people. Our heart says, no, don't do that. Forgive, release, let go. Now you've got a dichotomy going on in you, a war, a conflict. Don't let it be a conflict. Go with what you know within your heart, not with what your head thinks is right or wrong, good or bad. When you and I move against our mind, move against our logic, move against our reasoning, we make our hearts far more impressionable on us, far stronger. And we don't resist anymore the truth. We don't create problems of should I or shouldn't I, will I or won't I. It becomes very clear that the only way to achieve anything in life that is loving and fulfilling is to be unconditional in our love. So don't create problems. If your mind says do this, do that, stop a moment. Look at it. Is it kind? Is it compassionate? Is it forgiving? Is it unconditionally giving within you? If it is, then do it. If it's not, then let it go and move on in your search for yourself. And the third idea, and that is to let go of our resistance towards life. If you will notice, a great deal of our life says no. No, I don't want to give. No, I don't want to receive. No, I don't see any reason why I should change my life. No, 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 no. Look at it and see if it's not true. Maybe even to the concepts that I've given to you today, you're saying no to them. Maybe even the teachings of Jesus, because they are different, you are saying no to them. Instead of saying no or yes, why not put ourselves in a neutral position? Most of our life, if you will look at it, and I mean really look at it, is spent in resistance. Trying to make life what it isn't, trying to make other people's lives what you want them to be, trying to make everything the way you think it should be, good or bad, right or wrong. With that attitude, we're never going to find the truth, because I'll tell you why. God is none of the things that you think God is, or that maybe even right at this moment you want God to be. If God were all of the good things that you wanted God to be, there'd be no war, there'd be no famine, there'd be no poverty, there'd be no illness. But there are those things. So right there, if God allows that, that must tell us that God is none of the things that maybe we want. Maybe God is something far different. Maybe God is unconditional love and allows us to struggle with ourselves until we're not resisting anymore. Maybe God said, hey, this is your world. Live through me and live abundantly and live prosperously, or live without me and create your own hell. Create your own life experience. Could be. I'm not here to tell you, but here to suggest. Maybe if you look at your life from an unconditional point of view, begin to see that life does not have to be a resistance. Life can be an acceptance, an open fluidity, so to speak. That you and I can begin to be bewildered without being upset. I'm astonished at the way things are in my own life. Here I am at this age of 37, and none of the things that I thought would happen have happened. None of the things that I thought wouldn't happen didn't happen. And a lot of the things that I wanted happened, but they weren't as exciting as I thought they would be. Now I'm taking another look at my life, and I'm kind of saying to myself, it's okay. It's all right. I'm not going to resist it. I'm not going to try to make my life what it can't be for now. I'm going to allow my life to be whatever it needs to be and go wherever it needs to go, without me trying to tell it what it should and should not be. For a while, we're bewildered with that attitude. But something very interesting happens. As we learn to let go of the control that we think we have to have over our life, we begin to come into the all. We begin to know the all of God, and we begin to reign in that all. We begin to find a real dominion and mastery over life that we have never known before, because we're not trying to control life. We're allowing life to move through us. And when life is moving through us, it has the opportunity to bless us. I want to thank you for letting me share these how-tos with you. We're going to be right back. Namaste. And when we are bewildered by a truth or a concept that is out of the range of our personal understanding, when we no longer fight with it, struggle with it, try to manipulate it, get exasperated by it, all of a sudden, from out of nowhere, a new power emerges within us. It's not the power to fight something or to have conflict with life. The truest power of life, of reigning over the all, as Jesus said in this beautiful teaching in the book of Thomas, is that we harmonize with life. We no longer move against it. Rather, we move with it. And we allow ourselves to move with it. Most people, if you will look, most of us resist life just as it is. And all Jesus is saying is go with it. When you go with it, you'll find yourself empowered by the stream in which life is trying to take us. No longer will we wander around in the arid desert of our malcontent, our misunderstanding, our hurt, our pain, our suffering. For the first time in our life, we will find an oasis just like this, of peace and understanding. Because it doesn't come from here. This is the desert. It comes from here. Here is the all. And here is what you will reign over, your heart and your life. It takes great courage to walk the path of the Christ, as Jesus was seeking to teach us. But when we walk that path, we find a brand new life for ourselves. It is a form of a resurrection. It is a form of a new inspiration. It is a form of a commitment that will change our very being on this planet and in future lives to come. I'm so very grateful that, again, you chose to be with us on Aspire. We work very hard to make these programs possible for you. Let us know how you're feeling about our program and what we're trying to do for you. We hope that you catch the spirit of it. Namaste.